The first sign something was wrong came during my morning run. I just rounded the corner onto Maple Street when the pressure started, like someone was sitting on my chest. I've been training for the Seattle Marathon for months, logging 15 miles a week, so this wasn't normal fatigue. I'm Olivia Chen, 32, and until that morning, I thought I was perfectly healthy. Sure, I've been stressed lately, who wouldn't be, juggling a demanding job as an ER nurse with family obligations. But I ate well, exercised regularly, and had no family history of heart problems. The pain intensified as I stumbled home, my left arm tingling uncomfortably. My medical training screamed heart attack, but my mind refused to accept it. I was too young, too healthy, too careful with my lifestyle choices. I called my sister Amanda first. She was supposed to be the sensible one, the one who'd gone to medical school and became a cardiologist while I settled for nursing. Liv, you're being dramatic again, she sighed into the phone. You probably just pulled a muscle. Take some ibuprofen and rest. And don't forget, my engagement party is tonight. Mom will kill you if you try to get out of it. The engagement party. Of course. Amanda was marrying Derek Thompson, heir to the largest private hospital network in the Pacific Northwest. The merger of medical dynasties, as our parents kept calling it. Meanwhile, I was the family disappointment who turned down a spot at Harvard Medical School to become a mere nurse. Amanda, please, I gasped, the pain spreading to my jaw. Something's really wrong. Got to go, she cut me off. Meeting with the florist. Just take a hot shower and stop trying to steal attention from my big day. My hands shook as I ended the call. The room was spinning now, cold sweat beading on my forehead. I tried calling my parents next, but Mom's response was eerily similar. Olivia Jane Chen, she snapped, we are not doing this today. Your sister's engagement party has been planned for months. The Thompsons will be there. Do you understand what this means for our family? Mom, I whispered, sliding down the wall as my legs gave out. I think I'm having a heart attack. Oh, for heaven's sake. First the dramatics about not wanting to be a doctor, and now this. I thought working in the ER would make you less of a hypochondriac, not more. Please, I begged. Just come get me. Take me to the hospital. We're busy setting up for the party. If you're really concerned, call an Uber. My phone slipped from my trembling fingers as she hung up. The pain was overwhelming now, radiating through my chest and down both arms. I tried to reach for my phone to call 911, but my coordination was shot. The last thing I remember was watching it slide just out of reach as darkness crept into the edges of my vision. I woke up 3 days later in the ICU of Seattle Grace Hospital. Dr. Sarah Martinez, my colleague from the ER, was checking my vitals. Welcome back, Trouble, she said softly, but her eyes were serious. Your neighbor saved your life. Mrs. Rodriguez heard you screaming through the wall and called 911. I tried to speak, but my throat was raw from intubation. Sarah held a straw to my lips, letting me sip water slowly. You had a massive heart attack caused by spontaneous coronary artery dissection, SDAD. It's rare, especially in someone your age, but not unheard of. The EMTs got to you just in time. I closed my eyes, remembering the pain, the fear, the desperate calls for help. My family. Sarah's face hardened. They went to the engagement party. We tried calling them when you were brought in, but they didn't answer. Your mother finally called back the next morning, asking why you hadn't shown up to help with cleanup. Something cold and hard settled in my chest, having nothing to do with my heart condition. They didn't come. They didn't believe it was serious, Sarah said gently. But Olivia, there's something else you need to know. She pulled up a chair and took my hand. The paramedics who brought you in. They're required to file reports about response conditions, including any barriers to providing timely care. I knew where this was going. Every ER nurse knows the importance of documentation. They found your phone, Sarah continued. The 911 call was already dialed but never connected. They also found evidence of your calls to your family. The timestamps, the call logs, it's all documented. And there's more. She hesitated, which was unlike her. Sarah Martinez was known for her direct approach. Your case, it's not the first time something like this has happened. The Thompson hospitals, the ones your sister's fiance's family owns. There's been a pattern of delayed responses, of people being turned away, of medical negligence being covered up. The state medical board is investigating, and your case might be crucial evidence. I lay there, processing this information through the fog of medication and betrayal. The Thompson hospitals have been under scrutiny lately, whispers of cut corners and prioritizing profit over patient care. But Derek had assured our family it was all baseless accusations from competitors. The security cameras in your building's hallway, Sarah added quietly, they caught everything. Your collapse, the time it took for help to arrive, and your sister's fiancé, Derek, arriving at your door 20 minutes before the ambulance came. He looked in, saw you on the floor, and left without helping. The heart monitor betrayed my shock, beeping rapidly as my pulse spiked. He was there. Sarah nodded grimly. The timestamp shows he came by right after you called Amanda. He had to have known you were in distress. As a doctor, he had a duty to help. But he just left. The pieces started falling into place. Amanda's dismissal of my symptoms, my parents' insistence that I was being dramatic, Derek's abandonment. They hadn't just ignored my crisis. They'd actively chosen to let me suffer rather than risk disrupting their perfect evening. There's a state investigation starting, Sarah continued. The medical board wants to review every case of negligence at Thompson hospitals. Your sister's name has come up. Cases where she might have helped cover things up. The investigators want to talk to you once you're stronger. I stared at the ceiling, counting the tiles to keep from screaming. My own family had left me to die on my floor because they didn't want to miss a party, because image mattered more than my life. Mrs. Rodriguez has been here every day, Sarah said, changing the subject. She brings soup, sits with you, talks to you in Spanish. She said she heard you through the wall that morning, trying to convince your family to help. She's been calling you Maia, her daughter. A tear slid down my cheek. A neighbor I barely knew had shown more care than my own blood. Rest now, Sarah patted my hand. Focus on getting stronger. But Olivia, when your family finally shows up, and they will once they realize what's happening, remember this moment. Remember who was here for you and who wasn't. I closed my eyes, exhausted but unable to rest. In the darkness behind my eyelids, I kept seeing Derek's face as he left me on the floor, kept hearing Amanda's dismissive voice, kept feeling the weight of my parents' disappointment. Save everything, I whispered. The reports, the footage, all of it. Sarah squeezed my hand. Already done. We protect our own here. As I drifted off, I heard Mrs. Rodriguez's voice from a hallway, speaking softly in Spanish to the nurses. My family might have abandoned me, but somehow I found another one, right here in a hospital where I'd chosen to build my life. I didn't know it then, but this was just the beginning. My family would be back, not to apologize, but to beg for help when their perfect world started crumbling. And I would be ready. They say karma comes for everyone eventually. For my family, it arrived exactly 3 weeks after I was discharged from a hospital, dressed in a crisp suit and carrying a state medical board badge. I was back at work, on light duty in the ER, when Amanda burst through the doors. Her designer clothes were wrinkled, her perfect makeup streaked with tears. For a moment, I thought she'd finally come to apologize. I should have known better. Liv, she grabbed my arm, pulling me into an empty exam room. You have to help us. They're investigating Derek's hospitals. They're saying we covered up cases of negligence, that we prioritized profit over patient care. They even have some ridiculous security footage of Derek supposedly ignoring a medical emergency. My heart, my damaged, healing heart, skipped a beat. You mean the footage of him leaving me on my floor during a heart attack? She stopped, color draining from her face. What? He came to my apartment that day, Amanda, after I called you begging for help. He looked right at me lying there and walked away. It's all on camera. No, she shook her head. No, that's impossible. He said he drove by but didn't see anything wrong. Didn't see anything wrong? My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. I was unconscious on the floor. He's a doctor. He took an oath to help people in medical distress. He was probably just respecting your privacy. You're always so dramatic about, I nearly died. The words echoed off the sterile walls. While you were all sipping champagne and celebrating your perfect match, I was coveting in an ambulance. My heart stopped twice on the way to the hospital. If Mrs. Rodriguez hadn't heard me through the wall. Amanda sank into a chair, her perfectly manicured hands shaking. The medical board, they're threatening to revoke Derek's license. Mine too, for failing to report suspected negligence. Mom and Dad's reputations will be ruined. Please, Liv, you have to tell them it wasn't as bad as it looked. I studied my sister, really looked at her for the first time in years. When had she become this person who valued status over human life? Who could justify leaving her own sister to die? The investigators are coming this afternoon, I said quietly. I've already agreed to speak with them. You wouldn't, she whispered. We're family. Family? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Was I family when I was begging you for help? When Mom and Dad chose your engagement party over my life? When your fiancé left me to die? You're being melodramatic again. No, I cut her off. I have the medical records, the cardiac enzyme levels, the EKG readings, the surgical reports. I had a massive SCAD heart attack that should have killed me. These are facts, Amanda. Medical facts. You of all people should understand that. The door opened before she could respond. Sarah walked in, followed by my parents and Derek. Mom was crying, Dad looked grim, and Derek wouldn't meet my eyes. The investigators are here, Sarah announced. Her tone was professional, but I could see the protective anger in her stance. They'd like to speak with everyone. Before they do, I said, moving to the computer in the corner, I think we should all watch something. I pulled up the security footage that had been haunting my dreams. The hallway camera showed me stumbling to my door, clutching my chest. The timestamps matched my phone records, calls to Amanda, to my parents, desperate attempts to get help. Then Derek appeared on screen. He climbed the stairs, approached my door. Through the wide-angle lens, you could clearly see me on the floor through the open doorway. Derek stood there for 30 seconds, looking right at me. Then he turned and walked away, pulling out his phone as he left. I was calling Amanda, he said quietly, breaking the silence. To tell her you were indisposed, that you wouldn't make it to the party. You saw our daughter having a heart attack and just left? Dad's voice cracked. We didn't know it was a heart attack, Mom protested weakly. I told you it was, I said. I'm an ER nurse. I know the symptoms. But you all decided I was being dramatic. Just like you decided those other patients at your hospitals were being dramatic, right, Derek? Derek flinched. Those cases, they were complicated. Like the woman with an ectopic pregnancy who waited 6 hours to be seen because she didn't have premium insurance. Or the elderly man who died of a preventable infection because your hospitals cut corners on sanitation to save money. How do you know about those? Amanda gasped. Because I'm not the only one who kept records, I said. Other nurses, doctors, paramedics, we talk, we document, we remember. I turned to face my family, these people who had shaped my life with their constant dismissal and disapproval. The medical board doesn't just want to talk about what happened to me. They want to know about every case I've seen at Thompson hospitals. Every patient who suffered because profit margins mattered more than people's lives. You destroy our family over one misunderstanding, Mom asked. No, I replied. I'm going to tell the truth about a systematic pattern of negligence that's hurt countless families, including ours. The investigators were thorough. They interviewed me for hours, reviewing records, watching footage, documenting everything. By the end of the day, the shape of their investigation was clear. The Thompson Hospital Network would face massive fines and oversight. Derek and Amanda's medical licenses were suspended pending further review. My parents didn't speak to me for months after that. The perfect engagement imploded. Apparently, the Thompsons weren't interested in a merger once their empires started crumbling. Amanda moved to Chicago to start fresh. Derek took a job at a small private practice in Montana, about as far from his family's scandal as he could get. The changes weren't just in my family. The investigation sparked a major overhaul of private hospital regulations in the state. New protocols were implemented, oversight increased, patient care prioritized over profit margins. I stayed at Seattle Grace, doing the work I'd always known mattered. My found family grew stronger. Sarah, my fellow nurses, even Mrs. Rodriguez, who still brings me soup every Sunday and calls me her daughter. Last week, I received a letter from Amanda. I've been thinking about that day, she wrote, about who I became, what I was willing to sacrifice for status and success. I'm working at a community clinic now, treating patients who can't afford premium care. Every time I see someone in distress, I think about you on that floor. I'm sorry, Liv. Not just for that day, but for every time I dismissed you, belittled your choices, chose image over integrity. I haven't answered yet. Some betrayals cut too deep for easy forgiveness. But I keep the letter in my locker at work, next to a photo of my ER team and a handwritten recipe for Mrs. Rodriguez's chicken soup. Yesterday, a young woman came into the ER with chest pain. Her family was dismissing her symptoms, telling her she was being dramatic. I saw myself in her eyes. The fear, the uncertainty, the desperate need to be believed. I hear you, I told her, taking her hand. And I believe you. We caught her cardiac event early. She'll make a full recovery. As I watched her family crowd around her bed later, apologizing through tears for not listening sooner, I felt something in my own heart shift and soften. Sometimes the hardest lessons come through our deepest wounds. My family chose status over my life, but in doing so, they taught me the true meaning of care, of integrity, of standing up for what's right even when it costs you everything. I'm back to running now, building up my strength mile by mile. Sometimes on my morning route, I pass my old apartment building. Mrs. Rodriguez always waves from her window, keeping watch just like she did that day. I wave back, my heart, scared but stronger, beating steady and sure. They say every cloud has a silver lining. Mine came in the form of a medical investigation that exposed corruption, a found family that showed me true care, and a second chance to live life on my own terms. My parents still struggle to understand my betrayal of the family. But that's okay. I finally understand that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is tell the truth, no matter how much it hurts. Last month, Seattle Grace named me head nurse of the emergency department. At the ceremony, Sarah hugged me and whispered, "See, sometimes the mere nurses save the whole damn system." She's right. Sometimes it takes a near-death experience to truly start living. Sometimes you have to lose the family you were born into to find the one you were meant to have. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about making sure no one else has to go through what you did. I keep a copy of that security footage not out of bitterness, but as a reminder. A reminder that speaking truth to power matters. That genuine care trumps social status. That family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when you're on the floor, who stays when things get hard, who believes you when you say something's wrong. Every day in the ER, I see people at their most vulnerable. I listen to their fears, validate their pain, advocate for their care. And every time I help someone who feels unheard or dismissed, I heal a little piece of myself too. That's the thing about hearts, they can break in more ways than one. But with the right care, the right support, and the right kind of love, they can also grow stronger at the broken places.